This week, the nation delivered some much-deserved praise to our nation's hardworking farmers. It was National Farmers Day, and the day pays tribute to the men and women responsible for putting food in our grocery stores and on our tables every day. That's right, it doesn't come from the grocery store, folks. Somebody has to grow it or make it. Damian Mason is an agricultural economist and farm owner and the author of Food Fear: How Fear is Ruining Your Dinner and Why You Should Celebrate Eating. Damian joins us now. Celebrate eating. I like that.
Hey, Tom, thanks for having me on.
I'm all for that, celebrating eating. All right, agriculture, Damian, more than a $1.2 trillion industry in this country. It doesn't get a lot of praise or the attention that it deserves. Why is that?
You know, it's a testament to how good we are at it, Tom. Humans invented agriculture about 10,000 years ago, principally in the Fertile Crescent. We've all heard, we started cultivating crops, looked around and said, there's got to be a better way than wearing a loincloth and shooting a woolly mammoth that rots before we eat it all. Let's try this thing. Let's try this thing called agriculture. But you know what? We've been doing it for 10,000 years. We only got really good at it 100 years ago. Places like the United States of America, our agricultural system is so amazing. The reason it doesn't get much praise is because we just expect it to be good. We've generally got abundance because of the last 100 years, hybridization of corn, usage of chemistry and biology, and all of the sciences that have been applied to agriculture. The reason we don't get as much praise as we should out here in the flyover country, as it's called, is because we're just amazingly good at making food in places like the United States of America.
Damian, what can and what should we be doing to support our farmers more? Because it doesn't get a lot of attention.
Yeah, the main thing is give us a chance to do what we do out here. My neighbors, I'm out here in corn and soybean country. We produce pigs and I do business with a large scale dairy operation. Regulation is the thing that probably is troubling to most of us. Mm-hmm. When you talk about environmental regulation, one of the big ones several years ago was Waters of the U.S. was going to really put a lot of restrictions on things that happen out here in the farm. I just took a walk with my dogs. I was looking at my drainage. We got 2.5 inches of rain yesterday. I know what to do to make my farm drainage work, and I don't necessarily need the EPA restricting how I go about doing that. So I'd say it's restrictions and regulation that we'd like to maybe, leave us alone and let us produce food. And the other part is, I think we really, Tom, have an issue on labor that's going to keep rearing its ugly head. And if we see any continual spike in food prices, which I believe we will, it's going to mostly be about the wages and the labor availability.
Mm-hmm. Now, how are you seeing the supply chain and the inflation crises impacting the farmers now?
Well, out here in farm country, we're going to be paying a tremendous amount more for inputs, things like fertilizer and herbicides. Now, I know that the environmental types would say, well, maybe you shouldn't use that anyhow. Well, that's a neat story, but we're not there yet. Eventually, it'd be neat to not have to use chemistry, I agree. But in the meantime, there's a lot of bugs and weeds that want to keep us from growing food. Those inputs are going up tremendously. In some cases, fertilizer, Tom, is up double in 22 season input prices from last year. So, you're talking about a real hard number to recover. And then also is availability. I've got friends that are telling me, hey, I'm buying ahead everything I can, and I'm not just paying for it to get it off my books. I'm buying it and putting it in inventory so that I'm sure I have the seed and the inputs for next year's crop. So there's going to be some issues with that.
Yeah, it's incredibly complex because it's a business. And there's so much that goes into it. I think a lot of people don't, remember Mike Bloomberg last year during the presidential campaign, he said, well, how hard could this possibly be? You dig a hole, you put a seed in it, you water it, and you just kind of let it grow. Moron.
So mind you, I know a lot of people like me that went to land grant schools, fantastic situation in the United States of America, that we set up this great agricultural system through the land grant university system, places like Purdue where I went, that have advanced degrees that are figuring out better ways to produce more crops with less natural resources, so it's better for the environment. That would maybe quibble a little bit with Mr. Bloomberg on the complexity of food production.
Real quick, because I just have about 30 seconds left. How concerned are you about the debate that's going on in Washington over the tax hikes and how they could impact family farms and our ability to continue to be the breadbasket of the entire world?
If it's a matter of large estates, generally that won't affect that many farms. Because if you're talking about a $10 million cap or something, the bigger thing is going to be stepped up basis. You know, if my plane goes down, my wife inherits this farm for what it's worth today. If they change that, she has to then pay tax on what it was worth 15, 20 years ago when we bought it. And so that's a biggie that could really cripple people, cause them to have to liquidate assets.
All right, Damian Mason, we'll have you back, sir. Thank you very much for being here, and God bless our farmers.
Thanks, Tom.